Hey, have you heard about Anchor? You probably haven't heard about Anchor yet, so let me tell you about it. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. You probably hear other people talk about how they make podcasts. If they say it's easy, they're crazy. All of their methods are really hard and complicated, but Anchor, super simple. First off, it's free. They have creation tools that let you make the podcast right from your phone. You don't even need a computer. This is 2019. Who uses computers anymore? Anchor distributes your podcast on all the other platforms. No need to go do all that complicated searching and hosting and posting. Hosting and posting. They do it for you. You can also make money from your podcast. Well, that's what I'm doing right now, because you're listening to this ad. They've got everything you need to make a podcast in one spot. No need to search around all over the place. No need to go to 20 different sites. Just one. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Bet you thought I was going to sing right here, didn't you?
Are you looking for the hottest news out of the obstacle racing scene? Want to stay up to date on the freshest info, the latest podiums, and hear interviews with the who's who in OCR? Well, you've come to the wrong place. Well, some of that you'll find here. But we're not the media. This is not ORM, OCM, OCRM, ORCM. This is OCR Talk.
Hey, this is Jason Dupree.
And I'm Anna Landry.
And you are listening to OCR Talk. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 11, extra excited episode because we have a special guest this episode, which we talked about possibly doing last episode, and we didn't. But now we've got one because last weekend was the OCR World Championships 24-hour Enduro race in Australia. So we've got with us a Lone Star Spartan who went to the race, Diosdado. Diosdado, say hello.
Hello.
Diosdado, what's your last name?
Pasamonte.
Pasamonte. Did I get close?
Yes.
Nice. So neither of us, myself or Anna, got to go, but you got to go, which it seemed very exciting and pretty awesome. It looked like a lot of traveling, though.
Yeah, it was a 17-hour flight down to Sydney from Dallas.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Did you have any layovers?
No, because it was a direct flight from DFW to Sydney.
Oh, wow.
And vice versa. But the only time, but I had to drive up to DFW
Oh,
to catch the flight because it was a Qantas flight from DFW.
yeah. So you drove from San Antonio, so you had to do about 5 hours to get
Yes.
to the airport.
Yes.
Man, I think the longest flight I've done was maybe 5 or 6. What about you, Anna?
Oh, I don't know. Probably the same for me. Yeah, probably the same for me because I think whenever I was 14, I went up to Virginia to go visit my sister, and I think I got stuck in Washington Dulles Airport for a little while because of some snow somewhere. And yeah, I think that was probably my longest flight.
What about you, Diosdado? Have you had any flights that long before or close to it?
The closest I had was when I flew from Houston to Honolulu, or maybe it was I can't remember, because I also went from Newark to Denmark, but that was like a long time ago.
Yeah, but I could imagine that would only be, I don't know, maybe 7, 8 at the most.
Well, I know from Houston to Honolulu was about 8. I don't remember the other one because that was 20 plus years ago.
Yeah. So 17, man.
Yeah,
that's...
what do you even do on a flight that long? I mean, my friend just recently flew to Scotland, so she said that like a whole bunch of stuff on the international flight was free to keep them entertained, keep the natives quiet.
I watched a lot of movies.
Downloaded a whole bunch of movies off Netflix.
No, the Qantas has a lot of first-run movies on their screen. There's a screen in front of your seat, and you can watch. I can watch Black Panther, The Greatest Showman.
Nice.
Well, I watched The Greatest Showman twice, going to and coming back. That was a really good movie.
Nice. So that was a really good movie, huh?
Yes, 12 Stronger, 1517 to Paris.
Oh, I wanted to see that movie. How was that? Was that really good?
It was good. It was short, but it was good.
I'll have to check it out.
There wasn't too much of the train scene.
Huh.
It was more of them meeting up in Europe and traveling before the train scene. But they had bits and pieces leading up to it.
Oh, wow.
You do anything else on the plane? Did they give you meals, I would assume?
Yes, they gave, well, it's about an hour and a half into the flight, they gave us dinner, which was already like 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Oh, wow.
And then I didn't realize they offered beer and wine for free. And I was like, I'll take beer. And they served Australian beer.
Nice. Carb loading.
Yep. Oh, and one of the nice things about the flight is that you can, before you fly, you can pre-select your meals for the flight and they'll have it ready for you.
Cool.
That is really cool.
So they served dinner and the entire flight was all at night until we got to Sydney. So they served dinner and then they served an empanada in the middle of the night.
That's so random.
And then they served breakfast, which was bacon and eggs.
Nice.
And sausage and hash brown. And then we landed.
Cool.
And on the flight back, they served us lunch, in which I had pasta. They served us macaroni and cheese.
Nice.
And then they have, what else did they serve? They gave us ice cream, and then they gave us breakfast, which was same bacon and sausage in it.
That all sounds like perfect post-race eats right there.
Yes. By the way, the bacon in Australia and the bacon here are not the same.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Is it more like European bacon?
Yeah, it's more ham than it is like our bacon.
Yeah. That sounds like good stuff, though. So I guess take us through like your travel. We know you flew for 17 hours, but like everything leading up to it. What day did you get there? How far in advance did you get to the race?
So I left May 31 and I arrived on June 2nd. So I did not have a June 1.
You just lost a day. It was that beer on the flight, right?
Yes. And then after we went through all the customs and got the rental car, we drove down to Canberra, or wait, they call it Canberra, so that's how they pronounced it.
Nice.
The driving part was very scary.
Yeah, driving on the opposite side.
Because I was nervous driving on the right-hand side of the car and driving in the left-hand lane.
Yeah.
And the very first thing that I ended up with was rush hour traffic, which wasn't too bad. But then you started going through tunnels, and the tunnels were very narrow.
Oh no!
Was it a stick shift?
No, it was automatic.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Yes, but I had a hard time judging between being next to the wall in the tunnel and the lane next to me where there was a car next to me. It was hard to judge in a big SUV.
Wow. At least you're in an SUV though.
True. And I was like, thank goodness I took out the insurance just in case.
You always get the insurance.
Did you travel with anybody, or were you by yourself?
I went with my parents and my sister.
Nice.
That's cool.
And my sister was my pit crew, but I also bought pit crew passes for my parents so they can come into the race.
Awesome.
Okay.
Which was not so bad. It was only $20 a person
Oh.
compared to World's Toughest Mudder, where it's a lot more.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so speaking of which, you have done World's Toughest Mudder a few times, and I know you've done Toughest, so I know you've done some 8-hour races. What other endurance activities have you done?
Well, the first one that led up to the reason why I like doing the multiple laps races was Battle Frog BFX. And I did that at the Battle Frog Championship in Orlando in 2015.
Nice.
And I got hooked after that. And as far as the other endurance stuff, it's mostly Go Ruck.
How long are some of the longer Go Ruck events?
The longest one I had was about 15 hours. It was between 15 and 16 hours.
Is that the Go Ruck Tough events, or is it the Go Ruck Heavy or something? I know there's different categories. Yeah.
It was the Tough.
The Tough.
Yeah, I tried doing a heavy in April, and I bailed out during the welcome party.
Ooh, that sounds intense.
So yeah, after about 2 or 3 hours, I was pretty much done, and I already knew I was not going to make it through all 24 hours. So I bailed.
Wow.
But I came back and did the Tough and the light the next day, the 2 following days.
That's pretty intense. That's awesome though. The only Go Ruck event I've done is the scavenger hunt in Baton Rouge. So that's my only experience with Go Ruck. So
Those are fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I was getting on top of buildings in downtown Baton Rouge and taking pictures and putting them on Instagram, and it was crazy.
When I did Scavenger last year and they used my Instagram account, I'm sure my Instagram followers were probably annoyed with the 30, 40 plus pictures within a 2 hour time.
Yeah, and they're all like, what is going on with this account?
How far from the airport was the event?
About an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, it was from our hotel. It took us about 2 hours to drive out to the bed and breakfast that we booked, and the bed and breakfast was like 3 miles away from the race venue.
So you got there, you said on the 2nd.
So a week
Yes.
before?
Yes.
So what'd y'all do for a week to hang out?
Pretty much touristy things around Canberra. So we went to Mount Ainslie, went to Parliament, went to Telstra Tower, went around the city center, and visited the Old Parliament, went to the National Arboretum, went to the National Botanical Garden, and also went to the Australian War Memorial.
Out of all the stuff that you guys did, if you were to tell somebody, here's the one thing that you should do, what would it be?
For the views in Canberra, it's definitely Mount Ainslie. And as far as the history stuff, the Australian War Memorial was really neat.
Nice.
So after Canberra, we drove up to Sydney and did the touristy things there with the bridge and with the Harbour Bridge and the Opera House in Bondi Beach.
Cool. You guys had a nice little family vacation doing all that stuff.
Yes.
And the race was on, when did it start? Saturday?
Saturday at 12 noon, which was about 9 p.m. Friday night in Texas.
The Venturi Company OCR World Championships. Is that what they called it? Did they call it OCR World Championship 24-hour Enduro? Like, what was the full name of the event?
I think it was just OCR 24-hour Enduro Championships.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was run by True Grit. So all the obstacles were True Grit obstacles.
Right, because that's a course that they have out there. It's a race that they've already done out there in years past, right?
Yes.
Is theirs 24 hours?
Yes, their True Grit is 24 hours, and I know the week before they just had a regular True Grit obstacle course race the previous week.
Oh, okay.
So they told us that trails were already ran through by the people the previous week. So they're like, you can't get lost.
It's all carved out for you already.
Yes.
So I saw some of the obstacles they didn't look super challenging or anything, but they were unique in a way that they were kind of almost part of the terrain. Like I saw that rope climb that was like on the side of the rock face, things like that.
Yes, and there was a lot of cargo nets everywhere because we're going up a lot of cargo nets up the rock wall.
Yeah, that very rocky terrain looked pretty interesting. Definitely different than you see at pretty much any other American race, at least.
Yeah, how was the terrain?
It was good. It was well. So the main part was in the motorbike part, I guess, and that's where it was mostly muddy. And once you leave the motorbike, park and go out into the farm, then it was technical because there was a lot of rocky technical trails.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you get through all that technical stuff, about obstacle 5 is when you come to flat land, and then that's where they had the reverse. I guess they call it incline walls, which is like the inverse walls at the Spartan, or what was that? I can't remember what it's called at Tough Mudder. Skid marked.
Yeah.
Oh, skid marked.
Inverted walls. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you went back out into the hills. But most of it, probably about 5 or 6 miles of it was, but probably about 3 or 4 miles of it was flat though. The rest of it was all up in the mountain, going through up and down the hills.
And it was a longer course, right? It wasn't just 5 miles. How long was the laps?
It was probably about, I don't remember what they said officially. I think they said it was officially about 7.5 or 7.6 miles.
Oh wow!
Because I think part of the course also ran through the pit. So as soon as you crossed the finish line, you went through the pit, and so you had a chance to, depending on where your pit was, you either pitted first or you had to do 2 obstacles to get to your pit because there were 2 obstacles in the pit area.
Yeah, that was a really unique and really, I thought, very neat way to do it, in that there is no pit spot that's necessarily, probably resting before you do a couple of obstacles might be better, but there's no spot that makes you have to run further away from the course and then come back to it like you do at World's Toughest Mudder.
Correct. Everybody had to go through the same course through the pit to get back to the start line.
Yeah, very cool.
So as soon as you hit the finish line, then your clock starts for your next lap. So if you rested, your next lap could be a lot longer.
Yeah.
Because I laughed at one time and I looked at my time and it said I had 7 hours pit. That's because I took a 3 or 4 hour break.
Oh.
Yeah, I saw that on the video, on Arnell's video, that some people were taking 4, 5, 6 hours to complete a lap.
Yes. Well, I think one of them was Mark Daniels, and he was the amputee that they interviewed in the video.
Yeah.
He mentioned it took him about 7 hours to do one lap.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
That's pretty awesome, though. He finished, what, 4 laps?
Yes.
That's pretty amazing in itself.
I don't think I saw anybody really talk about how many miles they did. Everybody was talking about number of laps. Do you know how many miles you did?
I'm assuming. Well, I'm just gonna go with the least number. So I'd go about 7. So about 35 miles. 35 miles, because I really don't know the exact
Okay.
afterwards.
Did you wear a GPS watch or anything?
I did, but I don't remember where exactly I hit where it stopped, because I let it kept running until it died.
Yeah. When you first get into the pit, I saw that they had those rentable tents, so you didn't have to bring your own. You can just set up in there, and they got it ready for you.
Yes, and those were the tents that were for rent for $200.
Yeah,
and when I looked at some of them, they had cots inside them, and that looked really
That's cool.
But then I'd get caught with the sleeping in the tent.
Right. Yeah, I think I would get a little too comfortable in that tent.
Well, if you had that for, if you split that between 3 people and you each had a couple of pit crew, letting your pit crew use those and to keep you off of them, it seems like a pretty good setup.
You think it was worth the $200?
I think it would have been worth it.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is if you split it with someone else. I didn't. I shared my tent with Vanessa.
Yeah.
Well, Vanessa brought the tent, so I shared with her.
Right. That's nice that you had that. I mean, you had gear there already for that part of it.
Yes.
And when you're talking about Vanessa, you're talking about the Aussie, as they say, that comes over to America and has done quite a few races here in Texas.
Yes, Vanessa Letts.
Did she have a big tent or just a little space to change, or?
It was like the 2-person tent.
Okay, a little small one.
Yes.
So y'all's tent was in the area where you had to run through and do those couple extra obstacles first, right?
Yes, I had to complete obstacle 29, which was the gymnastics rings that you go across, and then obstacle 30, which was the cargo net. You go on top and then roll across the cargo net and then go back there and then come back down. And then I probably had another quarter mile before we're going through the pit before I got to my tent.
Was that rig with the rings? Was that the hardest rig? Was there any other rigs on the course?
That was the only rig on the course, was the rings. Oh, because they did have monkey bars.
That's right.
But the monkey bars were just straight across, nothing like super hard or technical about them.
No, it was just straight across.
Yeah, and looking at the map, it looks really interesting how it's almost like a few out and backs. You go run around in a loop, but it's kind of you go out in a direction and kind of come back that same direction. How was that?
Yeah, that's true. But you can never really get to see the other side. You can see the runners on the other side, but they were like way far away.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So you can see the obstacles when you're running one direction. You can see the obstacles on the other side.
Was that a river that y'all ran past on, like where it shows obstacles 12, 13, 14, and 15?
No, there was no river.
Is that a trail or a road?
It was just big grass field. It's pretty much what I remember.
Oh, but it did rain like the day before or the day of, huh?
It did rain, and it rained a little bit during the race.
How was the temperature?
So the temperature was cool. It wasn't cold, and I made the mistake of starting off in a long cold gear shirt.
Oh.
Because within the first mile, I was burning up.
Huh.
Yeah.
I was hot, and so I had my shirt above me and trying to cool down. And I was expecting to get wet along the way, and the only place that we got wet was obstacle 13, which was something Steve, Scuba Steve, or something Steve.
Swimmer Scout.
Swimmer Scout. Yes.
Scuba Steve.
Scuba Steve.
And that water was, and that water was meant to only up to your thighs, and that was pretty much about it.
Huh.
So it never really got cold at all during the race, like not cold enough for like a wetsuit.
Well, I eventually put on a wetsuit because I got frozen.
Oh yeah.
When I
night.
when I got when I rested too long.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah.
And I felt cold. As soon as I put the wetsuit on, I warmed up, and then I went out, and then I got too hot, so I had someone unzip me.
That's interesting to be on a course with so little water, but still be cold enough to think about using a wetsuit.
Yeah, I know everybody else was either, they weren't, a lot of them were just mostly wearing their bottoms, like neoprene bottoms, and everybody else was just regular tops. And they looked at me, they're like, I can see why you're burning up your wetsuit. I was like, yes.
Better to be over-prepared.
That's so true.
And I know it works different for different body types, but I personally would put on a heavier top garment before I put on heavier legs, because I feel like my legs can take the cold better than my upper body.
And the other reason why I went straight with, because I originally wanted just to wear the shorty instead of wearing the long wetsuit, which is what my sister got out for me, was the short one, because I asked for that, but then I rested too long, and when I got cold, I was like, give me the longer one. And all I can remember was from Toughest Mudder in May, when I got cold out in Smithville, and I was like, I couldn't stop shivering. So I couldn't do another lap.
Yeah, that's amazing how that happens, because I ran the whole time, and I put on a long sleeve on the second to last lap. But when you stop, and I saw girls that I was passing, not that you were a girl, but I saw a couple of girls, and yeah, they were walking like with their hands clasped, and they were real, just shaking. And it's just amazing what happens when you do stop and rest, and that cold sets in.
And I think that's what happened to a lot of people at Toughest Motors, that once they stopped, they couldn't get going again. Yeah. So a lot of people didn't do as many laps as they thought they would do.
That is very true, yeah. And I don't think a lot of people expected it to be that cold, really. To me, I don't think it was that cold. I mean, there was definitely some points where I thought it was cold-ish, but...
Anna, you did a great job continuing to move, but I remember, after the race was over, the sun was up, but even outside, it was quite chilly.
Yeah, it was pretty chilly outside, even though the sun was out.
So yeah, that's understandable. You got to keep moving.
Yeah, just keep moving.
So what made you want to take a break in the first place? Like, what time did you break at first?
My first break was after my second lap, I think. It was probably about 6-ish at night, and I was on the second lap. I was very sleepy, and I kept thinking, it's like, I guess this is where the jet lag part comes in. This would be about 6 o'clock at night, and I was like, I kept thinking, I was like, that's about 3 o'clock in the morning in San Antonio.
Yep.
I could see why I'm so tired. So I was like, I just want to take a 30-minute sleep. So my sister let me nap for 30 minutes, and then I just kept sleeping. She kept waking me up, and I kept going back to sleep. And then she got mad at me and started yelling at me.
That's a good pit crew.
That's one thing I think I would be afraid of, is going to sleep and telling myself I can only sleep for like maybe 15, 30 minutes. But then I know realistically, whenever somebody goes to wake me up, I'm going to be like, leave me alone. Just let me sleep,
So here's the key to that. Make yourself go to sleep in a place that you're going to be uncomfortable. That way it'll be easy to get back up. So for me at World's Toughest in 2016, I kind of hit that point where I was like, man, I've got to sleep some. And so I laid down and I left my shoes and my wetsuit on my legs, because I didn't want to have to deal with all that, taking it off and stuff. And sure enough, they were exposed and cold, and that's like, I was still sleepy, but they were cold enough that I was uncomfortable. And I said, well, might as well get back up and keep moving. So yeah, if you get comfortable, I can see how that could just be tough to get out of bed.
Yes, especially, and that happened to me after the third lap. I was sleepy again. So I went to the fire. So that's one thing that I loved about the the Enduro race, is that they had fire pits set up everywhere.
Oh, cool.
That's cool.
And so I went to go sit by one of the fire pits, and I got a little too comfortable.
A little too cozy.
Is that what the little sun markers are on the map?
No, those were supposed to be the headlight, the lights that
Okay.
were, I guess, because they said there were about 4 lights, and they were at transition areas.
Gotcha.
Oh, so those were like the floodlights that were lighting the course, I guess, at night?
Yes, but it was mostly dark. It was only lit up in that one little area.
Yeah, because they seem pretty spread out. Because I'm looking at it and like the back part of the course looks like there's one light towards the start, and then you don't see another one until you get out, like to obstacle 14 or something.
Yeah, it was. Most of it was dark out there, and especially at night, when there was less people out on the course, it got very lonely.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And the only people passing you are the ones that are still really moving.
Yeah.
The ones that are lapping you, like Allison Ty and what's his name, Lachlan Dancy.
Yeah, he was a beast. It was amazing watching him run by, and I was like, wow, he passed me by real fast. And he got 100 miles in.
Did he really?
Yeah, he did the 14 laps to get the 100.
That is
Wow,
crazy.
that's awesome. Did they have any kind of bonus for that?
Not that I know of, no.
He just did it to be a cool guy, huh? Was anybody close behind him? Like, how many did second place get?
When I looked at the results, I think this guy behind him had 13 laps.
Wow. So he had a whole lap on second place. And he had won Toughest Australia, like, 2 weeks before?
What was the requirement? Did you have to finish your last lap after noon?
No, the elites cutoff time had to be done. You had to finish your last lap before noon, and then the age group had to be finished by 12:10, and the team had to be finished by 12:20. If you finished after that, your lap doesn't count.
Was there a time frame to, like, did you have to start your last lap after a certain time, or?
No, you can start. You can keep going as long as if you think you can finish within the time frame.
So there wasn't if you're not on course at this time, you don't get a medal or anything like that?
No, I think they had it where even if you completed one lap, you received a medal.
So there wasn't like a minimum amount of laps that you had to complete?
No.
That's cool. That's different.
You gonna be at Dallas Stadium this weekend?
No, I will not be there.
No.
The next Spartan I'll be doing will be St. Louis.
Oh.
St. Louis.
Yeah, that's where I'm doing Tougher Mudder in the morning at Tough Mudder, Missouri, and then as soon as I'm done with that, I'm driving down to Busch Stadium to do their stadium.
Oh wow.
That'll be a fun day.
Yes.
or evening, or 2 days.
It's just one day. I figured why not do Tough Mudder since they were within an hour apart of each other. I figured why not do both on the same day? Because I needed a tougher for the Holy Grail,
right?
And I have an extra volunteer credit for Spartan, so I kept looking for races to do, and they were both in the same area on the same day. So I knocked it out for one day.
I think one thing I'm curious about is just since it's an endurance event and, all these endurance events are kind of lumped in together, they're all so similar. But what do you think was different about this race? Was it like the environment or the community or just something else that made it different for you from like doing Toughest or World's Toughest or, the Spartan endurance events?
As far as this race in particular, so there were a lot of things I loved about the race. The whole pit setup, running through the entire pit was pretty neat. They also had the porta pods there actually flush.
Oh, nice.
So that was pretty neat. I like that.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah,
it's the little things, yes. Right?
They had the fire pits. They had a lot of water for the pit crew to use. You can bring in burners, like at World's Toughest Mudder, where they don't allow you to bring any burners at all. They allow people to bring in burners, so everybody had hot water. So you can walk around any of the tents, and they offered hot water to you. Or at least that's what my sister was telling me.
Nice.
Because that's how I was able to get my soup and coffee. Everybody was just really friendly, which I loved about it. And everybody was, you weren't allowed to help people, but they were there to encouraging you to complete the obstacles. And I love that about that. Especially like I got on the ring obstacle, on the gymnastics rings obstacle, which they call Roman swing. I was on the last ring, and Deanna Blake kept encouraging me to hit that bell, and I because I was stuck in no man's land. I couldn't reach up and I couldn't swing back to reach the next. To reach,
Oh, no.
and when I finally gave up trying to reach it, she's like, "You were just almost there. Go back and do it again."
Oh, no.
She's like, "You can do it. I believe in you." And I was like, "I'll try, Deanna."
Hey, when Deanna Blagg tells you to go back and do it again, you go back and do it
Exactly.
again.
And all the volunteers were they were great. They were always joking around, and they kept your spirits high, and they kept checking upon you, asking how you're doing, and telling you thank you and goodbye and all that. And I just loved it when they say good luck, mate, or how you doing, mate? And I'm like, this is amazing.
So obviously we get a lot of that from just OCR in general, especially World's Toughest Mudder. I mean, that's one of the things that people love about it the most is the community, the camaraderie. Was it different out there?
It felt the same. I mean, everybody was there to help each other out. I mean, you couldn't help each other out on the obstacles. You had to do obstacles on your own, but everybody was there helping you out mentally.
So it wasn't better or worse. It was as good, you'd say?
Yeah, I would say it was good. Oh, one last thing I forgot to mention. At the very end, when you want to clean up and shower, the water was hot.
Nice.
Unlike other places where you just get whatever water's coming from the lake.
Right.
Yeah, lake hose.
It was clean, hot water that from the big tubs of water that they had, and it felt amazing.
That's
Wow.
amazing. It sounds like they really catered to like the pit crews and the racers, and that. I mean, yeah, all the little luxuries that we take for granted.
Yes.
Okay, so we would love to see that kind of stuff at World's Toughest Mudder.
Yes.
Anything else that you feel like other endurance races could learn from this one?
No, I mean, World's Toughest Mudder has been great. Also, I just love it, and I can't wait to do the one in Atlanta this year.
Yes, we're all gonna be the one in Atlanta.
So if both of
Yeah.
them happened on the same day and they were equal traveling distance and equal price, which one would you choose?
Equally the same. I mean, the bigger family is obviously at World's Toughest Mudder, so I'd be there.
True.
Yeah. I actually was just listening earlier to Evan Preparis talking to Rhea Coble, and he asked her kind of a similar question, like, would you choose Iceland over, World's Toughest Mudder? And she said, no, because pretty much anybody that goes to the World's Toughest, they're going to do it again because that's just how awesome it is. It's just such a great event.
I mean, after the first year I did it, I loved it, and it's like I want to just keep going back over and over again.
Yeah.
Just the whole community and the encouragement of everybody there it's amazing.
Yeah, that is cool to see that at other events, but World's Toughest it definitely has something special about it.
Yeah, and it's so crazy to like come back and like go back to your day job and try and explain that to, all the people that, just don't know what this community is all about, because it's so hard to explain it to other people. Like, what's the appeal? Like, you pay all this money to go do a race and like go hang out together, but yeah, it's kind of hard to explain to other people.
Especially when you're in your darkest hour, especially like when it's like between 2 and 5 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
and you're struggling out there and you're like, why am I even doing this?
Yeah.
And then you come up to someone, and especially like when Morgan Mackay comes by and she's, singing, laughing the entire time, you're like, this is amazing. It's like it gets your spirits up a little bit more.
Yeah, and you explain that to people that I thought to myself, I don't even know why I'm doing this. But then they're like, well, why did you do it? But it's like, well, it's more than that. You find out who you are in that moment. Okay, Australia, last thoughts on it?
I just know there were just some obstacles I wish I could have beat when I was there and did less burpees because of it. Because just like at World's Toughest Mudder, you knew there was going to be that one obstacle that
every lap
is stuck in your mind, and it's going to come up. And it was all, and for at the Enduro race, it was always obstacle 15, which they called muscle up, and it was basically it's a slip wall. It was kind of a slip wall, kind of like Liberator and Backstabber.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of having holes in there, it was just you had the starting block, and then you had three like 6 inches ropes that you had to get your body over. And after falling off it and hitting the starting block, I was like, it messed me up psychologically. and I was like, well, I have to see this over and over again.
I always wonder, why do they put those in those obstacles, like pyramid scheme? Like when you get a stack of people on that thing and it falls and you slide into that stupid board, that hurts, man.
Yeah. And I just kept thinking to myself, like, thank goodness my feet did not get injured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it hurts. And I remember my friend Mary back in 16 when we were doing Liberator, and she was at the top, and then she slipped down and hit that foot block, and she got a nasty bruise off of it.
Yeah, that's rough.
So are you going to do it again next year? They've already opened up registration for it next year, huh?
Yes, but next year next year I have other plans for other things, so I will not be going to Australia next year.
Okay. Anything you can share yet, or?
I'm planning to do Tough Ruck in Boston, which is the same weekend as the Boston Marathon weekend.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
And the only other thing I know that I'm doing for sure is wherever the GoRuck has their GRT reunion. Because I don't know what it is, but just like the World Stuff's Mud, the GRT reunion is it's fun.
Nice.
Where you get Jason, the founder of GoRuck, at the event, and he does the event with you.
Cool.
It's even more special.
Nice. So are you
Yep.
gonna try and go to GoRuck's Savage Race?
If they bring it to Texas,
Yeah. They need to. There's a lot of people in Texas that I know do GoRucks and everything. I think it would do well down here.
I mean, I wanted to do the one in Virginia, but I was already registered for GoRuck in Texas, and so I didn't. And I was also registered for Tough as Mudder. It was the same weekend, so I can't do it. I'm already doing GoRuck and Tough as Mudder. So.
Why not throw in one more thing in there? No big deal.
Yep, that's why I didn't do the one in Virginia. So,
Diosdado, is this the first podcast you've been on?
Yes.
Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on here and talking to us. It's seeing those big events. It's always, of course, we want to be there, so it's nice to be able to hear about everything firsthand and see what the pit was like and how it was to actually be there. Very cool.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, thank you for the invite.
You're welcome, man. It's always nice seeing you out at a lot of these events. You're at a lot of them. You know, you're at the Go Rucks, you're at Ragnar, even if it's just being a taco at the transition station.
That was me, in case anybody remembers. I was in the taco suit, handing out hands. The slap bracelets.
Well, I will be at the AT&T Stadium Spartan Sprint this weekend. Anna, you got any races?
Yeah, I'll be at the Spartan Sprint as well this weekend. We'll be hanging out with Caterpie Laces at the stadium this weekend. So
cool.
Yeah, we're going to be hanging out for a bit.
What are you guys doing after the race? Me and April are going to a margarita festival.
Nice. That sounds amazing. Now I know what I'm going to do after the race. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to wing it.
Drive home?
No. Probably I'm going to wing it.
Diosdado, you what you doing? You resting up?
I have no idea. I may just go hiking somewhere.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wait, it's supposed to rain here in San Antonio, so that may not happen.
It's just a little water.
True.
We've run through worse before, right?
Very, 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 very true.
Well, I'm super excited that we got to do this and got to get a extra episode that I was not planning on doing this week. So, Anna, anything else you want to say?
No, just thank you for coming on. This is probably something we're going to have to do more often, is have like some special guests come on.
By the way, this was not an interview. We don't do interviews. Right. This was
We're not calling it an interview. This is a little chit chat.
We only ask questions because we're curious. We didn't interview you about anything.
We only ask questions because we're curious and nosy, and yeah. And we're just trying to live vicariously through his adventures.
Oh, sounds good. Oh, if you ever go to Australia and want to pet a kangaroo, go to Ferndale.
Pet a kangaroo? That sounds amazing.
It's a good place for it. Did they just come up to you, or is it a petting zoo or something?
They do come up to you if you had food in your hand.
Nice. That's awesome. All right, so a lot of good information for everybody that checked out this episode and listened in. Go to Ferndale and pet a kangaroo.
Yes. Oh, it's Featherdale. Ferndale it's Featherdale. Sorry.
Featherdale.
Okay.
Featherdale. Yeah. Ferndale is a good place to get your Airbnb. It's a bed and breakfast that was 3 miles away from the race venue.
All right. I think we're going to wrap it up there. Anything else to say before we go?
Y'all have fun in Dallas this weekend.
Oh,
Thanks,
we
man.
will.
Appreciate it.
Lone Star shenanigans.
Anna, any last words?
Nope. I think that's it for me. It's weird how fast this hour goes by. So
I know.
strange.
This is a short and sweet episode, right?
Kinda.
Yes.
Yeah.
50 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody, thanks for listening in. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Instagram and all the other good stuff. And don't forget to follow, listen, and talk. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Declan, you want to say hello?
No.
Bye.